I'm going to be quiet and let the camera do the talking. Savour the Nismo glory. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have got a Nismo 400R and a Z-Tune inside our facility. This pair are arguably the best two cars that came out of the Nismo Omori factory. Let's take a closer look at these street monsters. In 1997, Nismo released a racing version of the R33 Skyline GTR. They called it the 400R, as the famous RB26 produced 400 brake horsepower. Many of the upgraded parts were inspired by the GTR LM that ran in the Le Mans 24 Hours. The engine is called the RBX GT2, up from 2600cc to 2800. This meant that the block and cylinder head had to be reinforced. Other upgrades include forged pistons, conrods and crank, polished ports, high lift camshafts, intake, intercooler, bigger exhaust manifold and turbocharger. And of course no one can miss the new titanium tower bar. The bonnet is made of carbon fibre to save weight, and this is to aid cooling. The interior has had a few upgrades. Look at this beautiful 400R steering wheel and dash. And we also have the superb titanium shifter and a few gauges here. Gone are the standard R33 seats, and this has made way for the monoform bucket seats. And now to the exterior. Nismo has of course put on their own body kit, and the front end is all about cooling. Now take a look at all these ducts trying to pass air to this massive intercooler and the oil cooler. Then we also have these brake ducts, and moving down to these 18-inch 3-piece LM GT1 wheels. Simply gorgeous. The brakes and suspension are upgraded of course, and now as the camera peeks down you can see the complete Nismo exhaust and the carbon prop shaft. Coming to the back of the car, we can see that the rear wing has been made from carbon fibre, and also we have the unmistakable 400R badge. Nismo had originally planned to produce 100 units of the 400R. However, only 44 units were made before production of the R33 ended in 1998. Now onto the Z-Tune. Visually, the Z-Tune looks a lot more dramatic than the 400R. Just look at it, it means business. The R34 Skyline GTR already stopped its production in 2002. But in 2005, to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Nismo, 20 used cars were completely transformed to the Z-Tune. The entire car is essentially handmade, with the car being completely stripped and rebuilt from the chassis up. The Z2 version of the RB26 produces an astonishing 500 brake horsepower. Again, it has been brought to 2800cc, and many of the components have been taken from the GT500 engine. Each of the engines has a unique serial number, and also you can see the carbon fibre reinforcement, and look at that beefy tower bar. What a magnificent engine bay to look at. The interior is a celebration of red Alcantara. The steering wheel is actually a Z33 Fair Lady option wheel. And we also have the Nismo dials and the upgraded Nismo multifunctional display. The shift knob is also a Nismo item. The seats, we have a beautiful mixture of leather and red Alcantara. Other than that, the Z-Tune interior remains fairly stock. Many of the Z-Tune's exterior panels are carbon fibre. The bonnet, bumper, fenders, underspoiler and rear wing. And these are the lovely 18-inch wheels which are forged and produced by Rays. The suspension is made by Sachs, and the Z-Tune gets the Brembo monoblock 6-piston front and 4-piston rear calipers. And here you can see more of the carbon fibre reinforcements. And look at these wheel nuts, especially made for Z-Tune. Again, Nismo uses a carbon prop shaft and a complete exhaust system. What is interesting here are these gearbox and diff oil coolers. Look at them, they're like coolers from older F1 cars. And because of these coolers, the Z-Tune had to ditch the rear diffuser found on regular R34s. And here we can see more of the carbon fibre reinforcements, and we also have a lightweight battery. And of course we also have a Z-Tune badge, just in case you forget what car this is. And now I've been given the keys to these two, it's going to be a good day. So here we are in the 400R. Now the clutch, although twin plate, doesn't feel too heavy, it feels just right as we pull away. That engine is absolutely awesome. Although a little bit laggy at the lower end, once you get it going, it's an absolute rocket ship. Now the great thing about this power assisted steering is it doesn't compensate too much or too little, so you get a really good feel for the road through the wheel. So the Nismo brakes, they've upgraded the pads but not the calipers, so it's quite ideal for day-to-day use, but you can feel after pushing for a little bit, they get a little bit spongy. It's a very well-balanced car. Although at 1550 kilos it is quite heavy, you don't really feel it. It feels quite nimble to drive. I'm a big fan of the blow-off valve as well. As soon as you come off the throttle, whether you're second, third gear, you get that sound. It just makes you feel like you're in Fast and the Furious. This is a very usable car on the road. I would have no problem with taking this as my daily in 2018. It's 400 horsepower, four-wheel drive, manual. The suspension's not too stiff. We have the nice bucket seats and also the Japanese reliability. What's not to like? I'm impressed, very impressed. This doesn't feel like a 21-year-old car. In fact, it would put a lot of the 2018 cars to shame. Overall, it's a very good package. That's it for the 400R. Next up is the Z-Tune. Okay, so here we go in the Z-Tune. Now the clutch is also twin plate, but it feels a little bit more bitey. A little bit more like a racing clutch. Not quite as easy to use, but still manageable on a day-to-day basis. Wow, that is absolutely awesome. What an engine. I've driven Ferraris, Lamborghinis, single-seaters, like everything GT3 racing cars. Nothing can compare to what I just felt just then. What a beast. It's like a spaceship just taking off. Absolutely awesome. Listen to that turbo spooling up, and then that blow-off valve is properly best motoring material. And with the Z-Tune, you can immediately feel that the chassis is a lot stiffer. You can feel the reinforcement, you can feel the tower bar. It just tightens it up like a brick. And certainly not the most enjoyable to drive on an average road, but I think on a track it would be much better suited. One interesting feature in this car is the multifunctional display. It's very small by modern standards, but it reminds me of the early days of Gran Turismo. It really takes me back. One point of difference in this car is you can feel that the brakes are a lot more bitey. So it's a lot more like an on-off switch, and it makes it a lot more difficult to do heel and toe well. One thing that surprises me quite a lot, although the chassis is very tight and stiff, there's no clunking, there's no rattles, it's exceptionally well built. There's no doubt about it, the engine is the highlight of this car. The acceleration, the pull, the grunt, absolutely brutal. What a mad machine. Surprisingly, the 400R works well as a daily, but I think for track usage, the Z-Tune is much better suited.
It is the end of the day now, and what a privilege to have driven these ultra-rare Nismo gems. I expected them to be fast, I expected them to be mad, I expected them to be ruthless, and they are all of these things. And remember how rare they are? We have gathered up 2 more 400Rs and 1 more Z-Tune, just for your viewing pleasure.
What really strikes me is the completeness of the package. Nismo has spent so much effort in developing these limited road cars that they have produced something exceptional. We all have had our car projects,
And I know the internet is saying for these insane prices the cars are asking, I could have done the same at a quarter of these prices. But I will tell you now, you can't. The engine is reliable, no idling, no overheating issues, the chassis is solid with no rattling noise, the cabin is clean without 20 Defi gauges flashing like a Christmas tree. No fender rubbing, no suspension clunking, the aircon works and the engine bay is clean. The attention to detail to unify all these components to work in unison is mind-boggling. A complete Nismo car, plus their rarity, I say they are worth every penny. The 400R and Z-Tune are the ultimate boy racer street weapons, done to absolute perfection, and only the finest Japanese engineers and craftsmen from Nismo could have done that. I know it is cliche, but yes, they really don't make them like that anymore. These machines celebrate and represent the heyday of Japanese motoring of the 90s and early noughties, and for that, they ought to be treasured and adored.